Alright guys, in this segment we're going to be speaking on 3 tips in order to help you survive any eventuality. Now I know the world has gotten scary, whether you're left wing, right wing, or somewhere in the middle. Nobody is really certain what's going to happen, from supposed whisperings of an attempted coup d'etat within the intelligence community, from them saying that they are not feeding Trump information, to various accusations of the liberal left is trying to burn down the country, to people saying the right-wing Americans are going to go full-on fascist. No matter what your political leanings, everybody's a little bit nervous nowadays, as well they probably should be. I mean, things are getting a little bit sketchy. So for those of you who've never considered it or thought of it, or those of you who have never really had to consider or think about what you're going to do in order to survive in uncertain times, here are 3 tried and true methods from various stories of anybody from Jews in Nazi Germany to the Contras in Colombia, to basically any place in the world where there has been horrendous conflict. These 3 basic tips seem to help people survive, or at the very least help them survive long enough to get the hell out of the horrible area. Okay guys, step number 1 to prepare for any eventuality: have emergency funds or money. This cannot be stressed enough. Whether, again, Nazi Germany, Latin America during the many revolutions and purges and whatever else they had, Eastern Europe during the Soviet rise and people trying to get out. If you're going to get somewhere or going to get supplies that are not easily accessible, having a little extra money is never going to hurt. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, I have so much in the bank, that's not really a big concern of mine. That's where you may actually be wrong. In 1977, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act was passed. Now, what this does is it allows the federal government or the president, via working with the U.S. Congress and various branches, it allows them to shut down or freeze the assets of any agency or institution that is in some way or the next doing business with or financially tied into any foreign group that may be a threat to the United States. Now, the issue is, with the mass rise of globalization, every single group out there, or almost every group out there, is in one way or the next tied in with many, many foreign institutions. Your banks may be putting your money into various trust funds. When you put $1,000 in the bank, sign up for a CD, they put those into various different investment groups. Those various investment groups send them out to various other countries, different companies that are across international lines. I guarantee you cannot pick out for a fact where every single dollar of your money goes. Which, that's fine. Diversifying your holdings is outstanding. That's what you need to do in order to make a little bit extra cash. Putting all of your eggs in one basket, as is commonly known, is a horrible idea. That being said, with the way our current financial system is set up, for millions of people, your money is all over the place. Now, were we to go to war with whoever, were there to be some major terrorist attack, were there to be basically any eventuality that could be constituted as a threat, your money can be locked down because it was in whatever institution at the whim of the government. Furthermore, a lot of people do not realize that if a government official, typically president, governor, whoever, declares a state of emergency, assets can be frozen. Now, the IMF has teamed up with the UN, and a bunch of different groups to make it very aware and to pass laws in every major country and policies that every major financial institution is going with, that if there is some sort of crisis, whether that be a conflict, whether that be a financial crisis, the stock market crashes, the market itself is just dying, they can lock down funds until such time as things have normalized. Now, what that means is your money can be locked down and you may not have access to it. All of a sudden, this is starting to sound like a bit of a problem, right? So, have emergency funds or money. First thing I would say is cash. Maybe not necessarily go with all big bills because, let's be honest, if you are in a bad situation or if whatever financial institution gets locked down and you need to make small purchases and nobody else has cash, it's going to feel really, really sucky buying a $30 tank of gas with a $100 bill and they can't give you any change. You can't really argue it because, again, you need to get to wherever. 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s. It doesn't really matter what you have because, hey, that's your own personal preference. If you would just rather get the hell out of Dodge and you're willing to fork over $100 for $10 worth of food to get your family across the border or to get your family through whatever emergency time, great. Have cash available. If they lock down the financial institutions and you are unable to withdraw your money, everybody will be operating on IOUs. You will be the big fish in the pond because guess what? You can hand them hard currency. Another thing I would advise, precious metals. Now, I know people are going to go, okay, this guy's a conspiracy nut, this guy's whatever. Precious metals are money worldwide. There is a reason that every major country and every major financial player, whether that be Warren Buffett, George Soros, the Rothschilds, Chinese government, German government, the UK, the US, every major financial player in the world has been buying up gold, and not as much silver, but they have been buying silver, but has been buying up gold. Because if there is a crisis, gold is money. Now, personally, I'm a little bit more of a silver guy. I try to hold on to some gold here and there, but I'm going to be honest with you, gold is very expensive. As I am sitting here right now, gold is tracking at $1,241 an ounce. An ounce, guys. That might get a little bit pricey. On the other hand, silver is tracking at $18.18 an ounce. Personally, like I said, I like silver. Silver is small bills. Again, if something bad happens, we have to barter for food, or you have to bribe the guy at the border in order to get the hell out of Dodge. It's a lot less painful handing them a 20 than it is handing them a 50. That being said, gold is an excellent investment. Gold will always be worth something. Gold never goes to zero. Obviously, silver never goes to zero, but gold, if you're going to invest larger chunks of money, it is an excellent investment. Now, currently they are working on something called an SDR, Special Draw Reserve. Basically, the concept behind it is it will be a world currency that you can base your money off of. So they'll have the yuan, which is the Chinese currency. Fun fact, that didn't actually meet the qualifications in order to become one of the currencies. They basically just brought it in because they wanted China to get on the whole globalization train. So you'll have the yuan, they were going to have the they have the yuan, they have the euro, they have the ruble. They were looking at making some sort of UK currency, but with UK jumping out of the UN or the EU, we'll have to see how that goes. But anyways, the SDR will be the new global currency. But again, it doesn't matter if you invest in SDRs when those become available for civilian purchase, because if you cannot access digital currency, you're up a creek. Have gold, have silver. It's an excellent means of getting out of whatever area. It's an excellent means of getting whatever resources you may need at the time, and it will help you out in the long run. Have a little bit stashed in the closet, have a little bit stashed wherever. For precious metals, there are a lot of third-party companies who will do excellent inventories and store your precious metals, store your precious items, whatever they are, and you can access them. Now again, in the events of riots or whatever calamity, it may be kind of hard getting there, but it is an option. So, have emergency money, have cash on hand, have some sort of currency that if our currency, wherever you are in the world, becomes worthless, you have another means of getting the hell out of Dodge. Okay guys, step 2. Step 2, have an emergency kit. Whether this be any horrible natural disaster, flood, power outages as a result of ice storm, another massive hurricane going through, regional conflict where you need to hunker down for a few days or a week or whatever, have an emergency kit, something you can toss in a closet, in your garage, in a basement, in wherever, some means of surviving. First part, water. The average human being will die after 3 days. You have to have water at least every 3 days. Now, a few on record have survived 8 to 10 days. I can't even imagine trying to survive something like that. Have a source of clean water. If you don't have any water stored up, a very simple filtration method, if you can get your hands on this, is either A, just boiling the water off. That works incredibly well. Or B, have a bucket, sand, charcoal, a couple of clean t-shirts, filter the water through there. No matter how you get it, you need to have water. Personally, I just swung by Walmart. It's like 80 cents for a gallon of water. Toss them where I store everything else. There you go. I've got water handy. Number 2, food. Long-term storage food. Canned food is incredibly easy to come by. You can get corn on clearance for like 50 cents a can. Have some means of getting nutrition, calories, everything you need. The human body can, again, on average, go 3 weeks without food. Now, that is kind of a questionable statistic in my mind. I can't imagine somebody going a full 3 weeks without food. Apparently Gandhi pulled it off, but as we all know, that guy is used to living on like half a packet of ramen noodle a month. So take that with a grain of salt, but have a source of food nearby. Again, if something bad happens, if need be, you can swap people food for stuff. You might be able to swap other items for food. Again, why we have cash on hand, but have some sort of food. Now, when you are planning your food storage, remember, you need to consider how many people will be with you. I personally need to store up for at least 2 people. So every single thing I try to plan for, hey, what happens, if we're going to be stuck for 3 weeks, I can't just get 3 weeks worth of food and call it a day. I actually have to get 6 weeks worth of food just for us to survive for 3 weeks. So have food on hand. Get canned stuff. It will last. The shortest time period I've ever seen on canned food going expired was like a year. I've seen stuff that'll last 5 or 6 years. Grab canned food, basic stuff, vegetables, fruit, some sort of meat. If you're a vegan or a vegetarian, I'm sorry, but if you're in a crisis situation, do what you need to survive. You can feel bad about it later, but you'll feel bad alive. Food, water, very important. Now, blankets. I know this sounds stupid, but have blankets stored up. Now, some people, if you live in a warmer environment, you think, why the hell would I need blankets? It's warmer. First off, if you actually live in a warmer environment, you know that it can still get incredibly cold throughout the night, especially in places like Arizona, Texas, California, out in the desert. It gets absolutely freezing. If you live in a northern climate, odds are you already have a crap ton of blankets on hand. But no matter what, have blankets. You can use for all kinds of things. Obviously, number 1, warmth. Number 2, shelter. If you are in a bad situation, storm, again, regional conflict, whatever, you can use them to do something as simple as cover a broken window. You can use them to provide extra insulation. You can use them to put items into, wrap it up, and use it as a bag. Have blankets on hand. You can get cheap ones that do just as good a job as your designer $150 ones. Have blankets. Use them to carry. Use them to create warmth. Use them to bandage things up. Have blankets. Flashlights. Again, storm scenario, power outages, whatever. The ability to see is obviously insanely important. We are not fortunate. We are not cats or whatever the hell else that can see at night. If there's a regional conflict or there's whatever other event, moving during night may be your best bet. Obviously, if that's the situation, then you might need to muffle the flashlight a little bit or do something so that your light isn't bouncing all over the place and becoming a beacon to your location. But have flashlights. Have a means of seeing what is going on around you. Our eyes are put in the front of our heads like predators. What that means is we do not have as good peripherals. We are good at focusing on one thing in front of us. That is how our entire body has been designed around, the ability to focus on the thing in front of us. If you take away your ability to see effectively in any emergency scenario, I mean, you're crippling yourself, you're hobbling yourself for no reason whatsoever. Have a source of light available. Now, the last one, if possible, have a source of heat. Fortunately, I live in a place that has a chimney. Outstanding. Or a chimney and a fireplace. Outstanding. Heat ever goes out, toss a few logs on the fire. You might have to sleep in the living room for a while, but hey, have a source of heat. Those of you who don't have that, maybe a space heater, maybe get yourself a gigantic dog. It doesn't matter what the source of heat is. Have some sort of heat. It is very easy to get hypothermia. It is very easy to freeze to death. There is no reason to have everything else and not have an effective method of providing heat. If you don't know how to do as simple as starting a fire, keep a lighter on hand, learn how to do it. Human beings going back thousands of years survived with sharp sticks, a cave, and a fireplace. If push comes to shove and things get truly bad enough, you need to know how to be able to provide your own source of heat. So, to recap, have water for at least 3 days. Have canned food. You want to get at least 3 weeks worth because that'll get you over the initial hump. Have blankets. Have a source of light. If possible, have a source of heat. Okay, guys, step 3. Own and know how to use firearms. Now, I know some of you listening to this are probably very left-wing or just very anti-gun in general and are thinking to yourself, oh God, well, firearms don't ever help the scenario. If firearms are involved, somebody's more likely to harm themselves, typically the person who owns it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'll do another video explaining why the majority of that is inherently and insanely wrong. But again, what we're talking about here is a disaster scenario, whether that be hurricane, natural disaster, regional conflict, whatever. And in those scenarios, you need to know how to use a firearm and own a firearm. Historically, in any major natural disaster or any regional conflict, uprising, coup, frickin' revolution, Donkey Kong party, whatever, violence occurs. Violence and looting. If you do not want to be a victim of that violence, if you do not want your home and your resources to be a victim of that looting, you need to have a method of defending yourself. In non-conflict scenarios and non-conflict times, police response time is still abysmal. According to American Police National Police, basically records keeping service, the average response time nationwide in the United States is 10 minutes. Atlanta has the worst time with 11 to 12 minutes, which, I'm sorry, bull. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of stories out of various urban environments. One of my favorite ones was one out of New Orleans recently, where the police were called and they showed up a prompt 2 hours later. But according to this anyways, average response time is 10 minutes. Atlanta supposedly has the worst overall with 11 to 12 minutes. Nashville comes in at the best with 9. Now, 9 minutes is still more than enough to harm you and steal your goods and be gone. That is in peacetime. That is in normal scenarios. In a disaster situation, in a regional conflict situation, in whatever terrible situation, odds are police, firefighters, everything else are not going to be available. Look at what happened during one of the major last hurricanes where there was flooding down in Louisiana. Locals in freaking John boats, bass boats, and whatever else they had were the ones doing the majority of the rescuing. You need to have a method of defending yourself. Some people will claim, pepper spray or a hockey stick, baseball bat, whatever. I'm sorry, but especially in an emergency scenario, that's not going to cut it. What people don't consider is the fact that you're not just trying to keep somebody from robbing you, you're trying to do so without sustaining any harm yourself. Now, if you personally have always been anti-firearm and you're interested in learning about them, go to an instructor, go to whatever local courses, talk to somebody you know that is pro-firearm. Ask them about it. Ask them to take you out to the range. Ask them to teach you. Ask them to show you what you're doing. After getting some instruction, purchase and own a firearm of some choice. Whether it being during peacetime and normal scenarios, and somebody is attempting to break into your home, where you may not have the opportunity to call, whether it be during a natural disaster, where if, regular emergency systems aren't available, or they're running full bore and they can't get to you, or whether it be during regional conflict and your local Antifa, your local left-wing psychos, your local fascists, your local whoever are marching the streets, and you need to protect yourself, your family, and get the hell out of Dodge, you need to have a firearm, a method of doing this. Now, I'm not saying that means get ready for World War III, go all Rambo. I'm also not saying that means every time somebody knocks on the door, meet them with incredible suppressing fire. Be smart about it. Know your local laws. Get some education on the subject. Get a little bit of training. Do some research on what you want to buy specifically for your needs. If you're just looking for something for the house, and you're probably never going to leave the house with it, get something simple. Grab yourself a shotgun, grab yourself, AR-15, whatever. Get yourself something simple for home defense. If you have family members that'll be sleeping in other rooms, if you live in an apartment complex, if you live, wherever, there's a ton of different factors. Take the time, do the research, find what you need. But at the end of the day, you need to have a method of defending yourself. Isn't it always interesting that before any major horrible event, one of the first things a group does is try to disarm their victim populace? Never be the victim populace. That's why I'm a huge supporter of groups like the Pink Pistol Organization. Because of the way the United States is made up, population-wise, sexual orientation-wise, gay people are at a very high threat of being victimized in, whether, again, regional conflict, natural disaster, whatever, or even, honestly, in any day life. Groups like the Pink Pistol Organization are working to arm the LGBTQ plus whatever else they've added to it community. Another little known fact, gun control was originally designed to keep the serfs from owning weapons to deal with their overlords. Now again, that's going to make me sound like some crazy right-wing nut job. I'm not saying own guns in an attempt to overthrow the government. I'm saying own a firearm in an attempt to defend yourself, to protect yourself. In cases of bad times, and you need to get the hell out of Dodge, you need to be able to defend yourself. Do some research, get some training, go to your local gun range, buy a firearm, practice using it, defend yourself, be in charge of your own protection. Alright guys, so that was 3 tips on how to survive any eventuality. To recap, number 1, have emergency funds or money. Number 2, have an emergency kit. 3, own and know how to use firearms. Sorry, I know this video wasn't terribly exciting. I'm honestly just starting out in this process. We'll see how it goes from there, see if anybody even actually cares to listen. At the end of the day, everybody, what happens to you is your responsibility. I think a huge problem in this country is a complete lack of self-determination, a lack of personal responsibility. We wouldn't have ended up with the nutcases we've had in government for the past however many decades. We wouldn't have ended up with somebody like Trump today if our main philosophy was my body and my life is my personal responsibility. Please take these things to heart. Do what preparations you need to. Keep yourself and your loved ones safe. Guys, I'll see you next time. Good luck out there.